Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. We have our government affairs team joining us today, Deena, Bosworth, Madeline Fata, and Samantha Gibson. This week, the week of Thanksgiving holiday, everyone's looking forward to that. But there were some developments here in Lansing last week we want to talk about, and some action items coming up and following the Thanksgiving holiday we wanted to update folks on. So first up, Deena, Madeline, we'll turn it over to you guys. The incoming Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, announced that he is proposing a what is it, a 1.3, I think, billion dollar or $3 billion? I can't remember the numbers.
2.7.
1.7?
2.7.
$2.7 billion road funding plan last week. This was late last week, Friday, late afternoon, Friday, I think even. And I know we're still kind of reviewing it and trying to get our arms around it because, well, frankly, there's not really bills to review yet. There's a lot of proposals, a lot of discussions out there. So what do we know? What do we know at this point?
So I would say about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, the governor said to the legislature, find me a solution to this road funding crisis. Propose something to me. I will absolutely review it. It is obviously one of her top priorities. So yes, on Friday, future Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, proposed a plan, $2.7 billion annually, and that would be $1.8 billion coming from corporate income tax revenue. And then just shy of $1 billion would come from the sales tax on gas at the pump.
Right. So let's talk about that real quick so everyone remembers. There is sales tax on the pump that goes into basically the general fund, correct?
Yes.
And
But
that's the norm.
it's earmarked. I mean, it's earmarked for certain things, for schools, for constitutional revenue sharing, but yeah.
And
Still goes to the state coffers, not directly to roads.
Right. And it's 6%, just like everything else, correct?
Yeah.
And that is in addition to your gas tax.
Yes.
So his plan would do what now, Madeline?
It takes the 6% in sales tax that you pay on gas, and it shifts it all to road funding, dedicates it all.
You said that's about $1 billion.
Yep. Right around there.
But he's also proposing to hold everyone potentially harmless of that sales tax cut.
Yes, because I mean, yeah, the $1 billion would impact cities, villages, townships, and schools. And if we got our revenue sharing trust fund through, it could impact there somehow. But he has said that there will be a replacement mechanism there, but it's kind of unclear at this stage what that reimbursement mechanism is.
Right. So that probably needs to be another tax of some form or potential cuts to general fund are really the only two options, right?
Yeah, I could see an increase in the gas tax being that reimbursement mechanism. Yeah, or they'd have to find $1 billion in GF to shift around.
And then Deena, so if we shift a little bit to a revenue sharing trust fund, of course, that brings up concerns because we're putting more pressure on the general fund, right? Which puts a huge target on statutory revenue sharing, correct?
Right. Now, statutory revenue sharing, in the past has been based on sales tax, but very loosely. There was no hard formula that the legislature followed. If we are to enact the revenue sharing trust fund bills, which got a huge campaign to do, and I want to talk about that. If we get those trust fund bills enacted, that is based on a percentage of the state sales tax that would go into that revenue sharing trust fund. So if they switch the sales tax revenue from going to cities, villages, townships, schools, and what would be our revenue sharing and dedicate that to roads, then that lowers that pot of money available for our revenue sharing trust fund. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the pie gets smaller, essentially.
Yep. It's based on a percentage of the revenue that is taken in. So that could significantly diminish the amount of revenue available to us through the trust fund.
Or even outside the trust fund, right? I mean, if the trust fund would at least give us some sort of protection potentially in an instance where the pie gets smaller. But right now, there's no protection, right? I mean, that can just be appropriated away very easily through the legislative process, correct?
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again, budget cycle after budget cycle, where at the last minute, they see something new and shiny coming down the road and cut local revenue sharing in order to fund what they want to fund. It just depends. I mean, if they do decide to move forward on this package and really put money toward roads, which Mac is not saying we don't need that because we 100% support more money going toward roads. If they do that, we're going to have to revisit the percentage and make sure that there's a hold harmless provision for us as well.
Right, and we still don't know what the breakdown of state funding or state roads versus local roads this package would do, right? Or do we know any of that yet?
I don't think we know exactly, but Hall indicated that the bulk of that 1.8 from the corporate income tax revenue would go to local roads. But we don't know exactly.
Right, which means road commissions, road agencies across the state, which would be
Yeah.
good because we know that bonding proposal that's now almost being done or spent at this point did go to almost, I think all that went to state roads. So we
Yes.
didn't see a huge increase in local road funding there.
So
So
Madeline, let me ask you, Madeline, like politically, do you really think the Matt Hall proposal is going to have some legs in lame
It's
duck?
hard to say. And the governor and Speaker Tate and Leader Brinks have all released statements basically saying we're grateful that a proposal is being floated around, like still reviewing it. No one's fully hopped on board and said, yeah, this is it. Like this is the solution. So I think everyone's excited that the conversation's happening, but I don't know that it's possible entirely.
I think the devil's in the details, right? Let's
Yeah.
see what the actual proposals are, and then everyone can kind of figure out what it actually means, short-term, long-term, to who, and that sort of thing. So Deena, you'd mentioned the campaign, revenue sharing trust fund campaign. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So House Bills 4274 and 4275 are our revenue sharing trust fund bills. Those bills, as everyone knows, passed last year out of the House with overwhelming support and have been sitting in the Senate Finance Committee ever since. Well, as part of an effort to shake those loose in lame duck, MAC, along with multiple other partners, are launching a campaign, a letter writing campaign, to urge the governor and subsequently the Senate to really move these bills out of the Senate committee and get them to her desk. We have heard through multiple conversations that the bills aren't moving because they're really not on the governor's list of things that she really wants to get done in lame duck. And the legislature, understanding that the Democrats are going to lose full power next year, are really working on her priorities and their priorities. We know we have the support. We know we have the votes. We just need our members to get vocal. And that's what this letter writing campaign is. So we've sent out an email to our county administrators to have these letters printed on county letterhead, signed by the county commissioners and sent back to us. And that has happened. I think we have 14 counties so far that have done that, maybe more. I'm getting some in every few minutes. We also sent it out to our county commissioners, and it's on our advocacy center on our website. Please, county commissioners, if you are listening to this, if you are affiliated with the county and want to put it on your clerk letterhead, your drain commissioner letterhead, your prosecutor letterhead, and show us some support for revenue sharing, we would absolutely love to take those letters in. So after you print it out on your letterhead, you sign it and you email it back to us. We set up a special email account, RSTF, so Revenue Sharing Trust Fund, but it's RSTF@micounties.org. The instructions, again, are on our website under Advocacy Center, and we're really hoping we get as many as we can possibly get. Our goal is 300. I think we're right around 85 right now.
Yeah, and we're working in collaboration with the Municipal League, the Townships Association, SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, to kind of get the message out, and everyone's encouraging their members to do that. So it's important, you know, the individuals to do it as well, because we're trying to make an impact visually as much of it as anything else on how important this is, especially when we start talking about putting pressure on the general fund down the road with potential other ideas. So moving along, you know, we're moving into lame duck. Any updates on the schedule? What do we anticipate the schedule to be post Thanksgiving? Any insight on that?
I think we've talked about it in the past. Sam, you want to take that one?
Sure.
You
I'll,
got
s- I'll,
You got
I'll speak during the podcast. Thanks. I'm fine being quiet too. Yeah, we're thinking there's 7 to 9 lame duck session days coming up in the next few weeks here. We anticipate December 3rd and 4th, 10, 11, 12, and 17, 18, 19, maybe one of those days. They're not showing up, but a lot of it, as we've said many times, is contingent on whether or not House Democrats can have their majority in Lansing. If they don't show up, anything that happens will have to be bipartisan. Otherwise, not much will be getting done. So remains to be seen what kind of lame duck we'll have.
Well, they
And
did
we-
add tentatively December 20th and 23rd as well, right? Just in case we're in the heat of things and they need to bring people back for votes. I think they'll have a hard time probably the week of Christmas getting people here, but
Yeah, so still expecting a pretty active lame duck over the next 3-4 weeks here. So everyone stay close to their emails, phones. We may need help as you see people back in district over the Thanksgiving holiday. You know, make sure you bring up some of these issues that we talked about week over week, because now's when the rubber meets the road, and we're going to need everyone, all hands on deck for that. We'll be, of course, out and about with our new members and plenty of old ones at the new County Commissioner School. There's still an opportunity to register for our 9th and 10th Commissioner School in Grayling and Escanaba. But we do have a ton of people already registered, and we'll be having our staff out at those new commissioner trainings that are done in collaboration with MSU Extension. So with that, anyone else have anything before we wrap it up for the day?
I just want to say, please pay attention to the alerts and the legislative updates. There are bills that we're really fighting and trying to make sure that they don't get enacted. And, you know, we're going to write about those in our updates and send out issue alerts if things get really timely. So please, to our membership, pay attention to what we send. And if you can help us advocate on behalf of counties, that'd be great.
Great. Thanks, Deena. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.